All right. Good evening. Can we do a quick audio check? Let me know if the audio is fine. How's everybody doing on this fine Sunday? Holy. What's up, Christian? What's up, Distinct? Tom F, Mram, Fuse, Alec. What's up, guys? All good. All right. We've got Silver in the building as well. Maurice coming around. That's good, man. That's good. So we had a good week. We had a wonderful week from the main short, to be honest, from that 16-day. I just closed shorts earlier today at that previous month value though, because let's be honest, this is more than enough for me. We could still be going lower. But today we're going to be building a narrative again for the rest of the week. And we're mainly going to be looking at, are we actually going to be entering within the bear market, or is there some hope left? So that's the main focus of this stream. Of course, we'll be diving in the lower time frames, higher time frames, building an actual plan around it. I'm also working on an addition to our website where everybody that is watching the streams, this is currently in Notion, but I think there's definitely some room for improvement for this prep template. Everybody will be able to access that on our website at Prime Trading. So that's something that we're working on for the public. That's good. So yeah, either way, it's going to be some exciting times ahead. Let's see if we can get some names going. What's up, my G? What's up, man? Steamo, CCM. What's up, man? Nice name. Generation Access. Last week you mentioned that if we lose 104s, we're going lower. You're a legend. Well, I appreciate you, man. And it's at least, if people are making money from these streams, like that's awesome. Like that's, I think, the biggest compliment that we can have as a streamer, right? Where you see that the plan that you're outlining within the streams is helping people, not necessarily to make money, but just, to have like a better understanding of the markets in general. So that's good. You cracked open a beer and let's go. That's good to know, man. That's awesome. That's awesome. I've got like spa, watermelon, and kiwi. So that's my beverage of the stream. Daily updates in Discord, both learning and executing profitable trades. You're very welcome, Steamo. Like, it's the I also, we've always done it like this where we're just doing these preps on a daily basis for you guys within the Discord. So because I think it's more important to actually learn how to do this yourself and then execute based on that than just simply doing buy and sell, because at that point you'll just be within the group forever, right? And my goal is not to have you forever, like maybe a month or two, and then you can move on. So first things first, guys, because I got a lot of questions about these. Yes, if you log in into our website, you will see this prompt. Let your exchange pay for you, hit your volume goals, unlock Primex for free, and let the exchange cover the cost, not you. Now, this is something that we've been recently working on. For those of you who are being with me for a longer amount of time, know that these streams are sponsored by Bybit. Big ups to Bybit, like it's my preferred exchange, 100%. So if you do want to have access to the Discord, the indicators, basically the goodies, all you have to do is make an account on my Bybit referral, or you can just switch or transfer your identity to a new account using our link. The information is here. Now, I am aware that a lot of people are not able to use Bybit due to the regulations. That is why we are also offering our services with Blowfin. Very excited about this as well. So whichever way you're choosing, if you link up the account and you start trading, you'll get access right away. So with that being said, first things first, prep. You know the drill by now, right? Bitcoin daily prep. What's the date? It is the 22nd of June already. Damn, almost like we've got like one more week and then we've got new previous quarterly value. Now that's something that I want to go in depth today as well, because that's going to be really important. And no, Bybit doesn't have scam wicks anymore, so definitely highly recommend them. So impact for news events today, obviously we've got none because it's Sunday. However, with the warmongering with Trump and Iran, I'll be honest, I have not really been following the news. So maybe one of you guys can update me within the chat, like what's going on. But for as far as I know, is shit's hitting the fan, which is why we're getting that, we're seeing that within the market. But what the market has told me or what journaling has told me in the past is I'm way better off just focusing on my levels, right? Yes, this is accelerated by the warmongering, the news that is hitting the tape today, right? But we were already biased for, with a slightly short bias here at the previous month value high and that break below previous month VWAP. So all in all, it was already in the charts nonetheless. But next week, we've got a Monday PMI, we've got Powell here again on Wednesday, Thursday, GDP, unemployment claims. So it's a pretty stacked week and I'm expecting a lot. But, with that being said, while there is a large amount of market driven events that we have, like news driven event, I do believe that we can just simply focus on the good stuff, which is VWAP, TPO, and so on. So with that being said, if we're going to go towards the prep, I'm going to be starting off with CR charts here. By the way, did you guys see my latest video about CR charts? It wasn't about CR charts, it was about market profile, right? Like a really brief introduction in terms of what is the point of control, what is value, and so on. I think I want to make these into a series where I just basically go over everything because I'm seeing a lot of questions regarding that. And honestly, I think the amount of quality that we have on YouTube, sure, there are some accounts that have quality, but majority is just utter dog shit. I'm like, damn, they're just teaching the wrong stuff. So that's why I have decided to step up and provide some good stuff as well. So if you haven't seen that, check it out. But that being said, let's take a look at what actually happened here on BTC. And the first thing that I want to outline here is if we're going to go towards this chart, let's expand that view like that. The most recent thing that we had is we had a 1, 2, 3, 4 day of overlapping value, right? The market was bracketing here. We had value overlap with the previous day, value overlap with the previous day, another value that is overlapping with the previous 3 days. So in essence, this becomes a 4-day composite. We merged those days together. I will show you how that looks in a bit. But what the market did was it opened up below the composite, tried to break back within, couldn't do it. Point of control here, right? Absorption. And then we sold off. We saw an initial reaction at that 16-day. Guys, remember, this is the 16-day from the previous all-time high. Not the current all-time high, but from the one in, I can't recall what year it was, but it's from back in the day. And we were basically pinched between these two extremes. And now we're breaking lower. And we can see that initiative activity is picking up here with the single prints. Huge push lower. Point of control shifting lower again, right? Usually a bearish sign, unless we start to reclaim that ASAP. Now, this is the most recent shifting condition based on the composites on a daily time frame. If we move towards the weekly, we've got a potential weekly composite, a potential 5-week, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks of overlapping value. If this week closes down here, we will still have value overlap. So I'm going to be adding all 5 weeks together, which gives me a value area low around here and a value area high up there. That's the weekly. Now the monthly is also painting a pretty important picture where we are starting to trade back within that monthly composite. Considering that we have a most recent 5-week composite, I'm shifting my focus towards that, but it is still good to see that this is not a bullish development, right? We're accepting below daily composites, we're accepting back within weekly composites, we're accepting back within monthly composites. So all in all, these are all bearish developments. That's what I wanted to put home for you guys so you understand that this is not really bullish. The thing that is really important here is the weekly. Now, on this week, I have already drawn the composite here. Let's see, right click, merge with next profile, right click, let's add all weeks together. 3, 4, right? Then we've got like a 50% value overlap at least here, right? From this tiny bit we've got left over. So adding it within the previous 4 weeks, right click, merge with next profile. Now this is the 5-week composite. That means this is going to be a huge resistance around 103. However, we're also accepting back within a weekly composite from that all-time high distribution. Look, remember this all-time high? We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 weeks of overlapping value. Then we broke lower and then we went from 92 all the way down towards 72. That is why this is such an important composite, right? So going forward, now that we are accepting back within this composite, it is safe to assume that this at 102, and we're going to be fine tuning our stuff in a bit with VWAP as well. But if Bitcoin closes like that, leaves a poor low, combined with the fact that we have a naked value area low, a single print, why wouldn't we be getting resistance here, reject, and then auction all the way down towards that weekly composite value area low, which is confluent with these tag lows around 93.5k. Now 93.5k, I'm going to be saying this right away, but 93.5k is confluent with the developing year VWAP and the previous quarterly VWAP. So I'll show you that in a bit, but keep that in mind, okay? So we've said a lot of stuff. I want to fine tune a couple of things, right? We do have some anomalies, etc. So let's open up the prep. Market profile. We have acceptance below most recent 4-day composite value area low. Bearish. We have acceptance below older 16-day composite value low. This is bearish. We have acceptance within prior all-time high 16-day composite value area. No, not the 16-day, the 14-week value. Acceptance within. Damn, totally with the donation. I wasn't even aware that you could donate during the streams, man. Appreciate you. He's saying in your last stream you mentioned 125 for BTC will be the top, or at least you expect heavy retrace. Now you show us what will be the top price for XRP by same indicator. Also now the bottom. Thanks, brother. Learning a lot. We can go. Well, let's just stick to Bitcoin this stream, and I'll keep that in mind. And we're going to be doing an altcoin stream later on in the week, or at least at the end of the stream. Okay, brother. So acceptance within previous all-time high, 14-week value. This is bearish as well. We can do it at the end of the stream, 100%, bro. Don't worry about that. We're covering it. So that's bearish. And we have also some anomalies. So we have poor highs from 21.6. And we have acceptance. No, I do want to point out that we have confluence with the 14-week value area low and previous quarterly VWAP and developing year VWAP at 93.5k. So essentially 93.5k is going to be big, okay? Now, keep that in mind. Is this clear, by the way, for everybody? Let me know in the chat quickly. Type a W if everything is clear. W, Y, whatever you want, just let me know. 84k, I don't really think so. I think that's a bit too low to my liking. But, you know, we can't really say it for sure, but you know, this is what we're having on TPO, and I do want you to take a look at VWAP right now, because if we're taking a look at VWAP, remember 93.5k, guys, that I said on the weekly composites. This is the yearly VWAP, which is around 93.5, right? That's important. If we're taking a quick peek here at the quarterly, 93-ish right there, previous quarterly VWAP. Do we see the interaction there, right? Huge level. You know, the monthly, no surprise that we're getting, you know, bar stepping in here, beautiful rotation. But all in all, things are looking bad. And let's just start with the yearly. So the standard deviation tree was capping upside, and the yearly developing value high was capping downside. Initially, this was looking perfectly fine when, you know, we got like a initial reaction there, retracement back into developing year value, then we got a nice move upwards. However, we also stated that this is not what we want to see. Like, this is super weak, especially after such a big move higher from previous support. Now that we're trading within developing year value, like, this is bearish. I will show you the previous time that we, you know, developing value on the year. Let me just show you. Look. Whoops, let's get this in. We are not able to accept. Look, this is where we accept backward in, right? Bearish towards VWAP. We tried to break above, we couldn't do it. Where do we go? VWAP. Tried to break back above, couldn't do it. Where do we go? VWAP. Value area low even, which marked the actual low from the previous distribution there, yeah? So if you keep that in mind, and we're taking a look at what we currently do, is This previous year value area high was, the accumulation range. No surprise. Then we got acceptance back within developing value. Where do we rotate towards? VWAP, acceptance above, value area high. Now we're getting the opposite. We are accepting back within developing year value. This is bearish. So developing year value area high is going to be a sticky point going forward. Even if we're going to be closing this as a string failure pattern like that, I will still need to see BTC trade above 105-ish for me to determine, okay, the low is in. Because this right here is fresh supply. And that's confluent with the developing year value. So I think, if we can't really reclaim this ASAP, we are going to be setting up for a move towards these lows, right? And that is going to be around 94, 93K. That's the yearly. So the yearly is not looking good. For as long as we trade below developing year value area high. Then we have the previous quarterly value. So let me zoom in. Like that. So previous quarterly VWAP, we had support, 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 and now what are we doing? So whilst all time frames to me are indicating that we could be setting up for more downside towards at least 95K, 92K, the only bit of hope that I have for BTC is for it to close above this previous low. So if we have a daily close today above that 90 or 100K region, I don't really know where it is, but we'll fine tune that on the chart in a bit. That's my first sign that I'm like, okay, maybe this was the low fueled by the war. If Trump comes out and says everything is resolved or whatever, which I highly doubt, then we're getting some upside. But until then, this is not what I want to see, because this could be the first sign that we have right there, right? This was resistance, then we accepted back within that previous quarterly value. Where do we go? VWAP. Acceptance above VWAP. Where do we go? Value area high. Acceptance above value area high. All-time high. So quarterly value is super, super important. If not, I would argue that it's the most important time frame for BTC or altcoins in general. Another thing to take into account is within 7 days, or roughly 7 days, we will have new quarterly value. Now that quarterly value will look like this, with a VWAP like that, a value area high up here, right? That's basically this standard deviation extended throughout time, standard deviation extended throughout time. If Bitcoin at that point in time is trading here, this right here becomes the level where I'm like, if we can get a push back into quarterly value and we are not able to accept above, I'm looking for swing shorts all the way down towards 95. Because from a quarterly perspective, this is still bearish, right? And this is the destination. Acceptance below previous quarterly VWAP in that point, and I'm targeting 84. But I think it is too soon right now to already be calling for 84s, right? So let me show you what happened previously. Right here. Let me show you what I'm referring to. So this was that weird ass consolidation. Was it this consolidation? Yeah, I think it was, right? Yeah. So we had like a weird consolidation. This was that low. We then spiked that low, got some relief, and then we went all the way back up here, which will be the previous quarterly value high that I just pointed out. Couldn't accept above. And then we rotated all the way down, right? This right here is then what I'd be expecting to form, like that. So if we can accept above, sure, we're getting some upside. We will be trading it nonetheless, upwards and downwards. But this is going to be my higher time frame bearish line in the sand, 106, with the upcoming quarterly close, all right? Now, that's the quarterly. If we're taking a look at the monthly, I'd say this is just pure sexy. Let's just call it sexy. I think this is looking good. Now, why is this looking good? Because look at how clean this trades. Acceptance within monthly value. Where do we go? Previous month VWAP. Couldn't break below previous month VWAP. Where do we go? Previous month value high. Another rejection. Previous month VWAP, right? Then we got the compression. For those of you in the Discord, that's what we were talking about. We didn't get the initial breakdown right away. However, we took out this high with that fake ass pump on what was it? I think Friday. I can't recall which day it was, but you know, just mainly shorts closing, covering. We took out some inefficiencies, closed below, beautiful short for a move lower, right? So I think it should be no surprise that buyers are stepping in. I just don't like to be the first one to be entering longs here after such a big move lower, right? It's just like stepping in front of a train. So I'll just let this resolve. Let me show like a bit of a lower time frame range before I'm getting involved. But the monthly actually looking, you know, we're at support. So it's not like a super good idea to be entering fresh shorts here unless it can show us some time and space, fail to break back within, and then we target lower prices. Okay. So there's that. Now, let me just go break this down, and then we will go over the short on Friday. Okay. So this is just done. This is now done. The VWAPs. So prep, long-term VWAP. We have acceptance within developing year value. That's bearish, right? Not what we want to see. We have early acceptance within previous quarter value. That's bearish. We have a full rotation on previous month value. Buyer stepping in at previous month value low. No surprise. We are in down, initial imbalance down on the developing week value. Now, what do I mean by that? The developing week value is a great tool to determine what are we going to be doing intraday, right? We accepted below the developing value. Let me just show you. We accepted below, resistance, try to break back within, resistance, try to break back above, resistance, resistance, and then we sell off, right? So just a great tool to determine overall strength intraday. Now, let's take a look at the rolling VWAP, then we'll summarize it, and then I'm going to go over some trade ideas. So first things first, rolling VWAP, do we have any goodies? I think it is looking bad. Now let's hide all the drawings. The thing that we have here is that Bitcoin was no longer able to accept above the 30-day rolling VWAP, right? On the H12, we can clearly see this rejection right there. Then we try to break back above another time, reject it right there. So that's bearish. What's the next likely destination, or what is the most bang for your buck? Like in an event where Bitcoin does in fact, you know, maybe find some acceptance below quarterly value, tries to break back within, rejects there, then we're getting another leg lower. I think at that point, this area right here, which is confluent with the 90-day rolling VWAP, the developing year VWAP, the previous quarterly VWAP, etc., right? This should be capping downside. I will not allow for lower prices because when and if that occurs, it's going to be going towards the yearly rolling VWAP all over again, right? Similar to, this is that 90-day. Let's track it back in time. 90-day, 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 90-day. This right here is where we initially tested that 90-day. After forming a high, like big move lower, right? That first test of the 90-day provided an excellent buying opportunity for at least a big trade higher. That's what we're focusing on. We don't need to be holding on to the runners from this low all the way back towards all-time high. No, we're extracting value from the market. So we're getting these intra-month or whatever, intra-quarter swings. So if we're doing fact getting more downside towards the 90-day, I will be looking for longs. And I'm going to be targeting a retest of that 30-day, right? Or whatever structure we have at that point in time. Should we fail to hold that, similar to what we did right here, where, let's track it back again, 90-day, right? This is where we accepted below. Look at the time and space there. We couldn't accept above. Then we got a big flush lower. When that occurs, it's game over for BTC, right? So if we do this, it's going to be that. And that will be... a lot of people will be in pain when that happens, right? So let's summarize this briefly within the prep as well. Rolling VWAP, we are trading below 30-day and 7-day, 90-day, confluent with the yearly, I can't type anymore, yearly VWAP and previous quarter VWAP. Basically our time frame bullish line in the sand. All right. So let's summarize this briefly. And meanwhile, let me know if everybody's on the same page now with the VWAP, or if you have any questions. So Bitcoin, I will type this out. Bitcoin is in a rough spot where the most recent shift in condition is definitely bearish after the break below the 4-day composite value area low, this 3 composite value area high, and even deeper within developing year value. While these are all bearish, there is one potential outcome that can turn this all in the low we needed, followed by relief. And that would be a clean break back above the 16-day composite value area low, as that would also indicate a failed break within previous quarter value. When and if that occurs, I expect Bitcoin to take out the highs back into 106k. 106k at least. So high time frame, Bitcoin is looking like shit. Like, it's looking weak here. It's looking rough. But I will allow this for this daily close to show me, like, hey, you know, can we accept above this previous low? Can we accept above the previous quarterly VWAP? Because if we cannot, it's, you know, we shouldn't be sad. I don't really care if Bitcoin is trading at 110 or 90k or 10k. What I'm excited about is, if this indeed is acceptance within previous quarterly value, it's going to be opening up a trade for us, where if we form a lower time frame range and Bitcoin tries to get back within or above previous quarterly value high and it fails to do so, what do you think is going to be happening? This is going to be rejecting a daily supply, and we can trade this down towards 92, make a lot of money with this trade, right? Conversely, break above this candle high, I think low is in. We're going to go towards, you know, I don't know, maybe that high. So let me quickly catch up on the chat, because I'm seeing a lot of comments. Yo, what's up, Grant? Hope you're doing well, man. We can have some money composites for a beginner, which to choose and which not. Could you give any tips? So for composites, that's a great question. I would go with recency and duration. So recency means the most recent composite is the most important one. And then duration, the longer time frame the composite has, meaning a 5-day composite more important than a 2-day, right? Short goal, what price levels, market structure broken. You know, I would argue that if we're getting like a daily close below this low, but I'm not really a market structure trader. Like, I prefer to focus on VWAP, TPO, etc., stuff like that. But I would say like a daily close or 12-hour close below this low, at that point, structure definitely could be broken. But you know, it's just like, it's not a good system in my opinion to just wait for structural breaks. If you want to join the Discord, I think there's a link here, or maybe someone, Grant, maybe you can link the website Prime Trading for him, or you can just click at primetrading.ai from Nightbot. Do you care more about the previous 15-week value, or do you care more about the previous quarter? Previous quarter is going to be like the most important price point for me, like the most important value will be this, because that's going to be the most recent quarter. So this will also allow for intraday trades, of course, based on this older value area high. But if we're getting above and we're sweeping this high and then we're getting back within, I'm shorting this all the way down towards 95s if that sets up, right? Because, you know, new previous quarterly value, like, that's just so super clean in my opinion. On Friday we had 2 TPO clusters within the same size, more or less, after the move. How do you read that? Because I feel like I was supposed to get better. So let's go over the trade from Friday, right? Everybody's on the same page. Higher time frame, Bitcoin is looking weak, right? We are accepting below composites. We're accepting back within previous composites. We're accepting back within quarterly value, monthly value, the yearly developing value. So all in all, this is not necessarily what you want to be seeing for a bullish bias. Where is the bias coming back? Where we're looking for longs again, right? Like higher time frame longs, clean break back above developing year value, which would also indicate like a filled break back below previous quarterly value high, and so on. And at that point, we can target the highs again. But until then, we need to be monitoring this level. Now, in terms of the actual trade on Friday. So for those of you who've been following along on my Twitter right here, or been watching the streams for a couple of times, know that I like to execute based on these. Let's just get rid of these real quick, like that. Oh, no, let's just keep that. Let's adjust the line thickness real quick, like that. Then we don't have to have this line be gone, like that. Okay. So on Friday, we got this low volume weird pump, right, into the 16-day composite value area high. And then I think we had the 7-day rolling VWAP. No, the 30-day was slightly above. All right, so this was mainly based around the 16-day composite value area high. And in terms of structure, which was this previous high there, right? This was the range high, range low. So we had a deviation of that range. What's the likely destination? The pending liquidity below this low. Now I fine-tuned my level by the 16-day composite value high. However, if I see a low volume push higher, and then I get a high volume bar with a point of control at the high, this was not on its own a short for me. But the fact that Bitcoin formed a 30-minute bar right after it and closed below the main bulk of the positioning within this bar, that's a short for me. And I was anticipating this to be a filled auction above the 16-day. So that's how I got short on Friday. Now, the positioning, how you should think about that is, if we were to expand this as a profile, right, it's a relatively thin move. And then at the top of the profile, right, because that's where we got the point of control, this is where majority of the volume transacted there. Meaning someone is absorbing everything, right? Or, you know, they're putting a lot of effort into this high, and the positioning there will want to keep this as support, because if we start closing below, they will want to unwind that position right away. Now, combined with the fact that this was purely shorts closing up into this resistance, like there was no real demand here. So the fact that we closed below, like on that second candle, like this was my short, that's my entry point. You can also see that in the tweets, right? I ended right here, stop above the high, and I'm targeting the low. And then I had some take profits here at the previous quarterly value high, and I wanted to keep a runner, but honestly, like from what 106 towards 99, like that's more than enough for me to close it. So that was the trade idea behind that trade on Friday. Where you can look up the tweet where I'm like, considering all the overhead resistance, I wouldn't be surprised to see something like this get back within the composite and then run the lows. So that's what we got, and that's what I traded. All right. So moving back to the prep, because we want to have some trades going into this week as well. And what are the trades that I'll be looking at? It's going to be pretty simple. The first trade that I'm going to be interested in is, I'm first going to be putting out my narrative for the week. So as I've said before, heading into this week, the most important price point for me will be the previous quarter value high and the previous quarter VWAP, given the amount of confluence both have with other timeframes, right? Think of the previous quarterly VWAP. Think about the previous quarterly VWAP, developing year VWAP. Previous quarterly VWAP, we also have that weekly all-time high distribution value area low from Sierra chart, right? Damn, that was a long phrase, but this is at 93K. Previous quarterly VWAPs all lining up with each other. So if shit's really hitting the fan, then this really needs to be holding a support. So both have conclusions with other time frames. And we've seen this before, where Bitcoin breaks below the value area low from the all-time high distribution, tries to accept back within the range, and fails for it only to go for another leg lower. This is essentially what I showed you guys here with this distribution, right? We lose value, we come into a contextual level, auctions back upwards into an upcoming previous quarterly value area high, like here. We get this from that point, fail to accept above, full rotation lower, right? So that's going to be very important. Going forward, you know, if you see people calling for new all-time highs and they do it below 106, like they're basically, you know, they're full of shit. Because you can't really be determining like we're going to back towards all-time high if we're just trading below a recently formed previous quarterly value high, right? That's really important. So keep that in mind. Back to the prep. Leg lower. Keeping that in mind, I will be looking for longs on a clean break back above previous quarter value high towards previous month VWAP at least. Failure to do so, and I will look for shorts towards the developing year VWAP confluent with previous quarter VWAP. All right. Hypos, the good things. Hypos. Let's go back to the prep right here. Let's zoom in. H2. Right there. We've got this low here. Let me just mark that out for you guys. Right there, we got a nice low. Let's make it a bit thicker. Let's get rid of these for now. Don't need that. Okay. So the first long would be, am I really interested in looking for longs at the previous month value low? No. While this might be a good short-term rotation, I don't know. This just feels a bit too heavy to me. So the confirmation that I would need to see is Bitcoin doing this, like that. And at that point, I think, okay, this is more than enough reason to believe that this was a failed break below previous quarterly value high. At that point also, we're forming an H2 bullish order block at the previous month value low, at the previous quarterly value high. So if we can form time and space here, short-term consolidation, you might think, oh, well, your invalidation is all the way down here. No, we're going to be fine-tuning our level based on the sweep and the reclaim of that 16-day value area low. If we do that, entry, invalidation, and I'm going to be targeting the 16-day composite value area high, right? Depending on how we react here, let's say that we sweep it and then reject, I might be a bit aggressive with my take profits, but ultimately I think if this is indeed a failed auction below previous quarterly value, we might be getting some more upside to fill in this gap into the 16-day value area high. All right, so there's that. Now, what else? This one is a bit more risky because if this is indeed going to be a low, and let's say that we form like some sort of a range here. Let's say that this is the range low, this is range high. It's a bit too early to define what the range is, but I will allow for a tree drive, like one. This is one, this is two, then maybe a third drive, and then a reclaim of the initial low there to get long, anticipating a reclaim of the previous quarterly value high. Now, this is going to be one single attempt, right? And I would not advise you to do that if you're not familiar with this, but it's a risky trade where I'm like, well, if this is going to be a tree drive lower around a key contextual level, it's worth a shot, right? For a move back to take out these highs, because usually structures like these get taken out, like these highs there, right? So that will be like a tree drive structure, reclaim, and then boom, back into that previous month VWAP. Now, in terms of a short, I would say if we're going to be forming a range here, again, like that, we're getting some time and space below the previous quarterly value high, and we try to break back above into that 16-day composite value low, and at that point, we're closing back below. That's a short for me, and I'm not targeting this low, I'm targeting this 94, the 90-day rolling VWAP, confluent with previous quarterly VWAP, and so on. So that's basically what I'm expecting on BTC and the hypos for this week ahead. Is that clear for everybody? And of course, if we were to do like the hypos I just said, but the line in the sand, obviously this is going to be the previous month value area low. The bearish line in the sand is going to be the previous quarter value area high, and we are simply rotating in between those price points. Right? Okay. So with that being said, there was a request to take a brief look at XRP with that same indicator. We can do that. Let's take a look at XRP. XRP, USDT. And if you have any questions, feel free to do so. Let me know. XRP. Right. Reset chart view. Now, one thing that I do want to point out here is that for altcoins, I do not take a look at developing week value or previous value on the weekly. I think that's a bit too, it's a bit too lower time frame for altcoins, especially how volume is being skewed. But what we're essentially doing here on the yearly is rotational. We can't reclaim developing year value, VWAP here. We're starting to lose developing year value high, value low support. I'll have my eyes on that previous year value high around 1.5. I think if we're going to be getting a flush into that yearly value, that's good for longer term, okay? So let's keep an eye on that. I'll be showing you guys everything on the normals chart in a bit. We'll be making a chart. Then we're taking a look at the quarterly. Again, see, this is why I like the quarterly value so much, is because look at how clean this trades around previous quarterly value. Acceptance within, rejected at quarterly VWAP, boom, back to previous quarterly value low, tries to reclaim that, couldn't do it. Now we're trading back towards the lows again. So that's bearish. Yearly's bearish, the monthly not looking good, right? Couldn't reclaim that previous month value low. Now we're auctioning lower, even trading back within this value. So let's take a look at a regular chart here and let's draft it up. RP. Let's get rid of everything. All right. Like that. Hourly chart. Previous year value high. Let's get that in first. Previous year value high. So this is basically what I'm doing. Like, this is a good process as well to see for you guys how I'm building my charts. Previous year, developing quarter value low, don't really need that. I want to have developing month, developing year, previous week value, previous week VWAP, what is this? Previous month value low. Previous month value low. Previous month value area low. Mainly focusing on the higher time frame previous values. Previous quarter value area low. And then we have previous week, no focus on that. Previous month VWAP, like that. Previous month VWAP, confluent with developing quarter value area high around that region. Previous month value, previous quarterly. Previous quarterly VWAP. Previous quarter VWAP. Okay, like that. That's more than enough for now. Daily chart. Let's get rid of these. Like that. Previous all-time high here. Okay, that's good. At the previous year value high, we've got a nice level of support. Daily support here. Daily demand. This is the range that we're trading within. Range high towards range low. All right, like that. Let's see, rolling VWAPs. Okay, so this is also what I'm liking. I like this a lot, by the way. So this is not what I like in terms of upside, intermediate upside, right? Because we can see that we have the 30-day rolling VWAP, 7-day, and the 90-day rolling VWAP all crunched up, and we're currently breaking down. However, yearly rolling VWAP, confluent with previous year value high, confluent with daily support, that's going to be your best bang for your buck. Like, if you want to get long, this is where you do it, in my opinion. Yep, that's it. like that. So let's take a quick peek at the weekly, 2-day. All right. It's a super clean level as well right here. We're now trading below daily. Do we have any intermediate short levels? Developing year value, how are we reacting there? I don't know. On altcoins, I'm not a huge fan to trade developing value, but for the sake of it, let's just add it to the chart. Developing year value low. Developing year value low, like that. And within that, we also have nice daily supply right there. We've got pending liquidity below this low, previous low there. Resistance, like that. Let's just remove this like that, and let's just do it a different way because I like clean charts. Developing year value low. Whoops, let's just annotate it right. Value low. All right. So, simply put, XRP, simple range. Range high, range low. Failed to accept above range high. Confluent with previous quarterly VWAP, right? Was it VWAP? Yeah, VWAP. So super clean shorting opportunity here. Multiple attempts for a rotation lower. Initially, buyers stepped in here at the previous month VWAP, confluent with developing quarter value high. We then broke below, couldn't accept back above, and now we're trading back below previous quarterly value low and the previous month value low as well. We can see how important this pivot has been within previous interactions, right? Pretty clean here. Once we start trading below or above, I would say, considering that this is daily resistance and this is daily support, based on the recent sweep of that range, likely destination could be this low here, confluent with the previous year value high. And that's about it for me for XRP. Does that answer your question, buddy? Tolik? And if that answers your question, and if you're currently away, I hope it does. And for the rest of you guys, I would like to thank everybody for attending today's stream. If you made it this far, please leave me a like and a comment. It helps me grow the channel. And with that being said, have a fantastic evening. I'll see you guys within the next one. Take care.